My wife secretly sold the family home for $350, $0, and split the proceeds with her childhood friend just before filing for divorce. Now she's claiming I'm the one stealing when I challenge her lies. I never thought I'd be the guy writing a story like this, but here I am. It all started with a gut feeling that something was off, and then it spiraled out of control faster than I could keep up. One night I stumbled across something I wasn't supposed to see, and it changed everything. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I married, had been hiding a secret that tore my world apart. And the most shocking part, it wasn't just some affair. She sold the family home behind my back, split the money with her childhood friend, and then filed for divorce like it was nothing. She had been lying to my face the entire time. Let me back up a bit. My name's Mike, and I married Lisa about 8 years ago. We were high school sweethearts, the kind of couple everyone thought was perfect. I was a corporate guy, working hard, trying to build a future. Lisa was always the bubbly, outgoing type, but she could be bitchy when she didn't get her way. Still, I loved her, or at least I thought I did. Things started to feel strange about 6 months ago. She became more secretive, more defensive when I asked questions. She'd hide her phone, brush off my concerns, and suddenly she was working late more often. Nothing concrete, just little things that didn't add up. Then, about 2 weeks ago, I noticed her phone kept ringing at odd hours, and she'd quickly hide it when I entered the room. I saw her message notifications. Nothing explicit at first, just vague messages with a guy named Jake. I thought it was harmless, maybe a work thing, but the tone was strange. Last week, I found a receipt in her purse for a hotel room, dated the night she claimed she was at her sister. That's when I started digging. I didn't want to believe it, but my instincts told me I was missing something. So I started checking her bank statements. That's when I saw it. A large withdrawal from our joint account, 350, made just before she filed for divorce. I couldn't believe it. She sold the house, the family home we poured our lives into, the place I thought we'd grow old in. She sold it without telling me, split the money with her childhood friend, and then turned around and filed divorce papers a week later. It was like she was planning this entire betrayal behind my back. And here's the kicker. She's been telling everyone I was a terrible husband, that I was neglectful, that I was cheating on her. Meanwhile, she's the one sneaking around and selling off our assets. I confronted her the day I found out. I was furious. My voice was shaking, my hands trembling. I threw the receipts and bank statements on the table and asked her what the hell was going on. Her reaction. She looked at me with that bitchy smirk and said, "Oh, Mike, you're just jealous because I'm finally taking control of my life. You're so insecure, it's pathetic." She then spun some story about how she needed a fresh start, how she was tired of being stuck in this boring marriage, and that she was only trying to do what made her happy. I knew she was lying, but I was too stunned to argue at. First, I just stared at her, feeling the rage boil inside me. The shock hit me hard. I kept asking myself how she could do this, sell our home, split the money, and act like it was nothing, all while I was clueless. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and honestly, pretty damn stupid for not seeing the signs earlier. I thought I knew her, but she was playing a game all along. The worst part, she kept insisting I was the one cheating, that I was the one lying. She twisted everything to make herself look innocent, but I knew better. I had caught her in her lies, and I wasn't going to let her get away with it. That night I was a mess. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. I kept replaying everything in my head, the secret phone calls, the hotel receipt, the money gone. It felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. I was furious at her, but also devastated. How could she do this to us? To me? I thought about all the years we shared, the plans we made. And then I realized I was going to have to fight back, not just emotionally, but legally. She thought she could just sell our house, split the cash, and walk away, leaving me with nothing. That's when I decided I wasn't going to let her get away with it. She was going to regret crossing me. I knew I had to be smart about this. I started gathering evidence, screenshots of bank transactions, her messages, with everything I could find. I wasn't going to let her spin her lies anymore. I needed to understand her game, and I needed to prepare for what was coming. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about trust, betrayal, and making sure she paid for what she'd done. I wasn't going to let her ruin me without a fight. She might have thought she could me, but I was already planning my next move. After I collected everything I could, screenshots, bank statements, her messages, I started to realize how deep this betrayal ran. The more I looked into it, the clearer it became that Lisa had been planning this for a while. Selling the house without telling me, splitting the money with, then filing for divorce just days after. It was like she was trying to wipe the slate clean before. I even saw what she was doing. I was furious, but I also felt a strange mix of heartbreak and betrayal. I had trusted her for so long, believed in the life we built together. Now that trust was shattered. I remember sitting in my living room, staring at the evidence on my laptop, feeling numb. I couldn't understand why she'd do this. What was she after? The money? Freedom? Or just the thrill of screwing me over? Whatever it was, I knew I had to confront her again. So I called her that night, voice steady but cold. I told her I knew everything about the sale, the split, the affair she was hiding. Her reaction was classic Lisa. She played innocent, acted like I was crazy for suspecting her. She said, "Mike, you're just paranoid. I never did anything wrong. You're always accusing me of stuff I didn't do. Maybe you're the one cheating, huh?" That's when I lost my temper. I told her she was a liar, a manipulator, and that I had all the proof. She scoffed and said, "You're just jealous because I found someone better than you. You're too insecure to see I deserve more than this boring marriage." That's when I realized she was trying to gaslight me, make me doubt myself. But I wasn't falling for it. I was furious. How could she be so cold? How could she betray everything we had? I knew I had to act fast before she completely wiped out any chance of saving what was left of our marriage, or at least getting justice. Over the next few days, I started planning my next moves. I contacted a lawyer who specialized in divorce and asset recovery. I told him everything I had found, the sale of the house, the split with, the bank withdrawals. He warned me that she might try to hide or transfer more money, so I had to be quick. I also hired a private investigator to see if I could catch her in any more lies or sneaky moves. Meanwhile, Lisa kept denying everything, playing the victim, accusing me of being controlling and jealous. She kept saying, "You're overreacting, Mike. I did everything for us. You're just too blind to see it." Inside, I was torn. Part of me wanted to break down, scream, cry. I felt so betrayed, so stupid for not noticing the signs earlier. The other part was burning with rage, rage at her lies, rage at being played like a fool. I kept thinking about the house, the home we built, the memories we shared, and how she sold it like it was just a business transaction. She didn't care about what we had. All she cared about was her own escape route. The fact that she split the money with her childhood friend made me sick. It was like they were in this together from the start. I remember walking around our house, feeling like a stranger in my own life. Every picture, every corner now felt tainted. I kept asking myself how I missed the signs. Was I so blind that I didn't see her sneaking around? Did I ignore the late nights, the secret phone calls? I knew I had to face the reality that my marriage was over, but it was a bitter pill to swallow. I also knew I had to prepare for her next move. If she was willing to sell the house and split the money, what else was she hiding? I couldn't let her get away with it. That's when I decided to confront her again, face to face. I told her I knew about the sale, the split, and her affair. I demanded she come clean, that I deserved the truth. Her response: she looked at me with that same bitchy smirk and said, "You're just jealous because I'm finally doing what I want. I don't owe you anything anymore, Mike." I saw right through her lies, but it still cut deep. She was trying to make me feel guilty, like I was the bad guy, but I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. This whole situation has left me feeling broken but also determined. I realize now how much trust I lost, how much I gave her that she threw away. But I also learned a lot about myself, how resilient I can be, how I can stand up when everything is falling apart. I still don't know what the future holds, but I know I won't let her ruin me. She thought she could pull a fast one, sell the house and walk away with everything, but I'm not done fighting. I'm gathering all my evidence, preparing for the legal battle ahead, and making sure she can't just sweep this under the rug. I guess the biggest lesson I've learned is that sometimes the people closest to you can hurt you the most. And when that happens, you have to be ready to fight for what's right. No matter how much it hurts, you can't let them get away with betrayal. I'm not seeking revenge just for the sake of it. I want her to see that her actions have consequences. And I want to make sure she doesn't do this to anyone else. Because if there's one thing I've realized, it's that trust is fragile, and once it's broken, it's damn hard to rebuild. After I had all my evidence gathered, I knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was normal. The emotional was exhausting. One minute I was furious, the next I was just numb. I couldn't believe Lisa, my wife, the woman I once trusted with everything, had betrayed me so completely. The fact that she sold our family home, split the money with her childhood friend, and then tried to turn everything around on me, it was like a bad movie. Only it was. It was real and I was living through it. I decided to confront her one last time before I took any legal steps. I needed to hear her explain herself, to see if she'd finally admit what she'd done. I called her late one evening, told her I wanted to meet. She agreed, but her tone was defensive, like she knew she was cornered. When she arrived at the house, I was already waiting in the living room, my phone recording everything. I didn't want her to deny later or spin some story that I was lying or crazy. The moment she stepped in, she tried her usual act, smiling, acting innocent. She sat down across from me, crossing her arms. I looked her right in the eyes and said, "Lisa, I know about the sale of the house, the split with, and the money you took out of our account. I have all the proof and I want to hear the truth. Why did you do this?" Her face twisted into that bitchy smirk again, and she looked at me like I was the one with the problem. "Mike," she said, "you're just jealous because I finally decided to do something for myself. I deserve better than this boring, predictable life. I sold the house because I wanted freedom, that's it." I shook my head. "You sold our home, Lisa, the place I thought we were going to grow old in. You split the money with, and you're telling me it was just about freedom. Don't insult my intelligence." Her eyes narrowed and she scoffed. "You're so paranoid. You always think I'm doing something behind your back. Maybe you're the one cheating, maybe you're the one lying." She was trying to turn it around as usual, but I wasn't buying it anymore. I pressed her further, pulling out my phone to show her the evidence. "Here's the bank statement, 350, zero gone, split with. Here's the receipt from the hotel she booked the night she told me she was at her sister. And here are her messages with Jake, the guy she's been secretly seeing." Her face paled, but she quickly masked it with that bitchy smirk. "Oh, so now you're accusing me of everything. You're just jealous because I don't want to be stuck with someone who doesn't trust me." "Maybe if you weren't so controlling," I cut her off. "Control? You lied to me. Sold our house, split the money, and then you have the nerve to call me jealous. You lied about everything. You've been sneaking around, cheating, and now you're claiming I'm the one at fault." Her eyes flicked away, trying to avoid the truth, but I wasn't going to let her dodge it anymore. I saw her start to sweat a little, and that made me angrier. How could she be so cold, so manipulative? I told her I was done being played, that I was going to take her to court, get an order to freeze her assets, and make sure she paid for what she did. I told her I wanted the truth, about the sale, about Jake, about everything. Her response: she threw her head back, laughed bitterly, and said, "You think you're so smart, huh? Well, I've got my own lawyer now. You're too late." That moment hit me hard. She had already planned her next moves, and I was just catching up. But I had one last card to play. I told her that I was recording everything she was saying, that I had witnesses to her lies, and that I was prepared to fight her. Legally, her reaction: she got up, stormed out of the house, and called me a paranoid psycho. She said I was ruining everything, that I was just bitter because she left. But I knew better. I knew she was the one who'd betrayed us, who'd lied, who'd sold our home and split the money. And I wasn't going to let her get away with it. Over the next few days, I contacted my lawyer again, handed him all the evidence, and started the process of filing for divorce and asset recovery. I wasn't doing this just for revenge. I wanted justice. I wanted her to face the consequences of her actions. It hurt so much to see someone I loved turn into this cold, manipulative stranger. But I also felt a strange sense of relief. At least now I was taking control of the situation. I wasn't going to let her walk all over me or destroy what was left of my life without paying a price. Looking back, I realize how naive I was to trust her so blindly. I thought we had something real, something worth fighting for. But I see now that betrayal comes in many forms, and sometimes the people closest to you are the ones who hurt you the most. I've learned that you have to be careful, watch for the signs, and never ignore your instincts. Because once trust is broken, it's damn hard to fix. I don't know what the future holds, but I know I'll come out of this stronger. And I'll make sure she regrets ever crossing me. The legal process moved faster than I expected, probably because I had all the evidence stacked against her. Lisa was still trying to spin her lies, claiming I was just paranoid and that I was making everything up. She even had the audacity to accuse me of cheating, saying I was the one sneaking around, not her. But I had the receipts, the recordings, and witnesses to prove otherwise. The more she lied, the more obvious it became how calculated her moves were. She wasn't just leaving. She was trying to cover her tracks, erase her betrayal, and leave me holding the bag. I remember sitting across from my lawyer, David, in his office. He looked at all the evidence I provided, bank statements, hotel receipts, her messages, and nodded slowly. "Mike," he said, "it's clear. She's been planning this for a while, selling the house, splitting assets behind your back, and then filing for divorce. We can file for an emergency freeze on her accounts, get a court order to prevent her from transferring any more money, and start the process to recover the assets she's hidden or transferred." I felt a small flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, I'd get some of what was rightfully ours back. Meanwhile, Lisa was trying to play the victim. She told friends she was forced into leaving, that I was controlling and abusive. She painted herself as the innocent party, the one who just wanted a fresh start. But I knew better. I knew her game. She was trying to spin her lies, probably thinking she could manipulate her way out of this mess. The thing that cut the deepest was the fact she sold the house. That was our home. It wasn't just property, it was our memories, our life together. And she just sold it without a second thought, splitting the proceeds with her childhood friend. I couldn't wrap my head around how callous she'd become. As I watched her try to dodge the facts in court, I felt a mix of anger and sadness. I was angry that she'd betrayed me, that she'd lied and cheated, but I was also sad for what we lost. I kept thinking about the nights we spent dreaming about the future, the plans we made, the family vacation. All gone now. I couldn't understand how she could be so selfish, so manipulative. It was like she was trying to erase everything we'd built just so she could run away with her new life. It was infuriating. The court hearings were intense. Lisa tried to deny everything, but I had the hard evidence to back me up. The judge wasn't convinced by her lies, at least not yet. They ordered a temporary freeze on her assets, and I was granted a restraining order to prevent her from selling or transferring any more property or money. It felt good to finally have some control back, but I knew the fight wasn't over. She was already planning her next move. I was sure of it. Meanwhile, I also started working on myself. I went to therapy, trying to process all this betrayal. I couldn't allow her to completely destroy my mental health. I also reached out to friends and family, telling them what happened. Some of them were supportive, others skeptical, probably because Lisa was spreading her own version of events. But I didn't care. I knew the truth. I knew what she had done, and I was determined to see justice done. I wanted to hold her accountable, not just for the money, but for the lies, the betrayal, and the way she'd shattered what I thought was unbreakable. One thing I learned during this whole nightmare is how important it is to trust your instincts. I ignored the signs for too long, and it almost cost me everything. Now, I was finally taking steps to protect myself and what was left of my dignity. I wasn't just fighting for the money. I was fighting to reclaim my life piece by piece. She thought she could just walk away, sell our home, and start fresh without consequences. But I was determined to make her pay for what she did, in every way I could. As I sat in my house, trying to find some semblance of normalcy, I realized I was stronger than I thought. I wasn't going to let her win. She might have taken the house, split the money, and lied her way through everything, but I still had my integrity, my evidence, and my resolve. I knew this wasn't the end, just the beginning of a long battle, and I was ready for it. I'd learned the hard way that betrayal cuts deep, but it also teaches you who you really are, and I was done being the victim. Now I was fighting to be the survivor. The months that followed were a whirlwind of legal battles, emotional turmoil, and a relentless effort to rebuild what I could. Lisa kept trying to spin her version of the story to everyone around her, telling friends she left because I was controlling, that I was cheating on her, that she had no choice but to sell the house and start over. But I had the proof, and I made damn sure it all came out in court. Every receipt, every message, every bank transfer. The truth was on my side, and I wasn't going to let her get away with pretending she was the victim. My lawyer, David, pushed hard for full disclosure. He filed motions to recover the assets she transferred to her sister, to seize her accounts, and to make her accountable for the sale of the house. It was a slow process, but each step felt like a small victory. Meanwhile, I had to deal with the fallout emotionally. I was angry, hurt, and honestly, pretty numb most days. I kept replaying all the moments I missed the signs, all the times I just trusted her blindly. The betrayal was so deep that some nights I'd lie awake, questioning everything about our marriage and my own judgment. One afternoon, I finally sat down with Lisa face to face in the courtroom. I needed to hear her admit what she'd done, even if just once. She arrived with her lawyer looking smug, like she'd already won some battle. When she sat across from me, I looked her straight in the eyes and said, "Lisa, I know about the sale of the house, the split with, and all the lies. Just tell me why. Why did you do this?" She rolled her eyes, scoffing at me, and said, "You really think I owe you an explanation? I did this because I wanted out. You were never supportive, always controlling. I deserve better than this boring life." Her words dripped with sarcasm, like she was proud of herself. I felt my blood boil. "You sold our home, the place we built our life, and split the money with. You lied about everything. And now you're telling me it's because I was controlling. That's bullshit." She looked at me, eyes cold, and said, "Mike, you're just jealous because I found someone else. You're insecure. That's why you're so obsessed with what I do." She tried to turn it around to make me the bad guy. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I had everything on record: her lies, her betrayal, her manipulations. I knew her game. The judge listened carefully as I laid out everything. The evidence was overwhelming. I could see her squirming in her seat, realizing she was losing control. The court ordered her to provide full financial disclosure, and I was granted temporary custody of the assets. It wasn't the end, but it was a significant step forward. I felt a strange mix of relief and anger. Relief that I had finally taken control, and anger that she thought she could just walk away from all this and pretend it didn't happen. During this period, I also started focusing on myself. I went to therapy regularly, trying to process the betrayal and rebuild my confidence. I reconnected with friends who supported me, and I started working out again, something I'd neglected during the chaos. I knew I couldn't change what Lisa did, but I could control how I responded. I wasn't going to let her destroy me completely. I was determined to come out of this stronger, more aware, and more cautious about who I trusted. The thing that hit me hardest was realizing how much she'd lied and manipulated, not just to me but to everyone around us. She painted herself as the victim, but I had the evidence, the facts, and the court's backing. I learned that sometimes the people you love the most can betray you in ways you never expected. But I also learned that it's possible to pick yourself up, piece by piece, and fight back. I was tired of feeling helpless, tired of feeling betrayed. Now I was ready to move forward, better, wiser, and more cautious. Looking back, I wish I'd seen the signs sooner. I wish I hadn't ignored the subtle hints. The late nights, the secretive phone calls. But I also know that I can't change the past. What I can do is protect myself from the future. I've realized that trust has to be earned daily, and betrayal cuts deep but doesn't have to define you. I'm still healing, still rebuilding, but I refuse to let her win. This experience has taught me that sometimes the greatest strength is in standing up after being knocked down. I'll never forget what happened, but I also won't let it destroy me. I'm moving on, one step at a time, and I'll make damn sure she regrets ever crossing me. The final stretch of this nightmare has been the hardest, but also the most revealing. After months of legal battles, emotional upheaval, and relentless digging for the truth, I finally saw some semblance of justice. Lisa's attempts to manipulate the court, to spin her lies, and to pretend she was the victim had all failed. The judge ordered her to return the remaining assets, including the money she'd hidden or transferred to her sister, money she thought she could keep hidden forever. But I had the proof, and I made damn sure she paid. For her betrayal, the day the court officially granted the divorce, I felt an odd mixture of relief and emptiness. It wasn't what I expected. It was more like a weight had been lifted from my shoulders. I realized that I'd been holding on to hope that she might change, that somehow we could salvage what was lost. But deep down, I knew that wasn't possible, not after all she'd done. The betrayal was too deep, the lies too many. The woman I loved, the woman I married, had become someone I barely recognized, someone capable of selling our home, splitting our savings, and then trying to rewrite history. In the aftermath, I focused on healing. I sold the house, not because I wanted to erase our past, but because I needed a fresh start. I moved into a new place, one I picked out myself, and began to rebuild my life from scratch. I cut ties with most of her friends, people who believed her version of the story, and surrounded myself with those who knew the truth. The support was vital. It reminded me that I wasn't alone, and that I deserved better than the lies and betrayal I endured. Looking back, I realize I've learned some hard lessons. Trust is fragile, and it's easy to be blinded by love. I was naive, thinking that marriage meant never having to question your partner's integrity. Now I see that trust must be earned and maintained every single day. The betrayal taught me to be more cautious, more vigilant. But it also taught me something else: resilience. No matter how badly you get hurt, you can still pick yourself up. You can still find a way forward. I won't pretend that I'm completely healed. There are days when I feel the sting of betrayal all over again, but those days are fewer now. I've come to terms with what happened, and I've made peace with the fact that I can't change her actions, only how I respond to them. I've learned to value myself more, to trust my instincts, and to be wary of people who show signs of deceit. To anyone reading this who's going through something similar, I want to say, trust your gut. Don't ignore the warning signs, no matter how small. Document everything. Protect yourself legally and emotionally, because betrayal can come from the people you least expect, and it can shatter you if you're not prepared. But also remember, your strength isn't in how much you can take, but in how you rise after falling. I am proof of that. This story isn't just about money, lies, or revenge. It's about reclaiming your life after someone you loved turns out to be someone you never knew. It's about standing up for yourself, no matter how broken you feel inside. And most importantly, it's about knowing that even after the deepest betrayal, there's a way to heal, to rebuild, and to find happiness again. I may never forget what happened, but I refuse to let it define me. I am moving forward, stronger than I ever thought I could be, and I will never let anyone betray me like that again.